The Fabelmans is a 2022 American coming-of-age drama film directed by Steven Spielberg and written and produced by Tony Kushner and Spielberg. It is a semi-autobiographical story loosely based on Spielberg's own adolescence and first years as a filmmaker, told through an original story of fictional Sammy Fabelman, a young aspiring filmmaker who explores how the power of films can help him see the truth about his dysfunctional family and those around him. The film features an ensemble cast that includes Gabriel LaBelle as Sammy, Michelle Williams, Paul Dano, Seth Rogen, and Judd Hirsch in supporting roles. The film is dedicated to the memories of Spielberg's real-life parents, Leah Adler and Arnold Spielberg, who died in 2017 and 2020, respectively. The film was produced by Spielberg's Amblin Entertainment in association with Reliance Entertainment. Spielberg had conceived the project with his sister Anne as early as 1999, writing a screenplay titled I'll Be Home. He had reservations about exploring his family story because of concerns that his parents would be hurt and the project was withheld. Spielberg revisited the project with screenwriter and frequent collaborator Tony Kushner in 2019 while they were making West Side Story and completed the screenplay by the end of 2020. Development of the film officially began soon after, with casting taking place between March and May 2021. Principal photography began that July in Los Angeles and wrapped up in September. The Fabelmans had its world premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival on September 10, 2022, where it won the People's Choice Award. It began a limited theatrical release in the United States on November 11, 2022 and expanded on November 23 by Universal Pictures. The film received widespread acclaim for its performances of its cast, Spielberg's direction, the screenplay, cinematography, and John Williams' musical score. It was named one of the best films of 2022 by National Board of Review and the American Film Institute. However, the film was a box office disappointment, grossing only $14.5 million against a $40 million budget. The cast includes Michelle Williams as Mitzi Skullenkraut Fabelman, Sammy's encouraging mother and skilled pianist. She's based on Spielberg's mother, Leah Adler. In casting the film, Spielberg explained that part of it had to be organic and it had to be authentic to me. It wasn't really about anything beyond who I can have the most profound connection with and reminds me most of the people that brought me into this world and raised me and gave me my good values. Based on that, he'd seen Michelle Williams in the film Blue Valentine and had kept her in mind to cast her in a film one day. Paul Dano as Bert Fabelman, Sammy's father and computer engineer. He's based on Spielberg's father, Arnold Spielberg. Dano admitted that he felt intimidated by playing the role because the stakes felt really high. He embodied one of the most important, influential, complicated figures in Spielberg's life. It was incredible to see how much of this was in his work the whole time. He's sharing a piece of himself that I find very moving. That's a real gift in it, when somebody of that stature and that level of artistry is willing to do that. Seth Rogen as Bernie Lowry, Bert's co-worker and best friend who becomes a surrogate uncle to Sammy. The role is inspired by the real-life Bernie Adler, the favorite uncle of young Spielberg. Gabriel LaBelle as Sammy Fabelman, a 16-year-old son of the family who aspires to become a filmmaker. He, of course, is based on Steven Spielberg. In May of 2021, after a 3-month search and over 2,000 contenders, Gabriel LaBelle entered final negotiations to portray the lead role. In September 2022, during the film's world premiere, LaBelle revealed that he initially did not want the part of Sammy following his first audition, but did upon receive a callback 3 months afterwards. On finally reading the script and learning the details about the character being a fictionalized version of Spielberg himself as a teenager for mostly of the entire film, he recalled, "When I was auditioning, the character's name was Teenage Sammy, as I thought, opposed to Adult Sammy. I get the script and you're reading it for 30 pages and he's 6 and 8 years old. Page 35 or so, Teenage Sammy comes along. Okay, good, now this is my part. It's going to be a 3-act movie. It's going to be going to Moonlight or something. I kept waiting for the exit, but it never came." Spielberg himself revealed the role of Sammy was the hardest to cast, saying, "As a kid growing up, I always had a lot of reasons why I was always in the corner, why I was always not the center of the conversation. I needed someone who wasn't going to bring too much self-awareness to Sammy." And finally, famed director David Lynch as John Ford, the famous film director whose work influences Sammy's filmmaking. Now, I found this to be a beautifully touching, moving movie that in part is a memoir of the phenomenal director that's Steven Spielberg's early life, and of course is part an ode to the fantastic power of filmmaking. For me here you can see a man who's absolutely in love with what he's chosen to do with his career. It was a complete and utter calling for him, even as a young boy, and in this movie he really brings that to life perfectly. This film in many ways is a love letter to being a director and a filmmaker, and that's one of the reasons why it stood out so much for me. Apparently on set, Steven Spielberg was very emotional and cried during many of the scenes, as you can imagine, as he was now reliving a lot of his early childhood, particularly with his complicated family life. What I find though with this film is it portrays his life in an honest manner. It never over-dramatizes anything. The characters are grounded, they are real, and they are made and written with a lot of love and respect. For me, this is one of Spielberg's warmest and funniest films, yet incredibly moving and touching in the same breath. It's here now I must compliment the actors. Michelle Williams is one of the finest actresses going around. She's a completely versatile actress who can literally play any role given to her. In this role, though, I feel she really brings Mitzi to life perfectly. Mitzi is an enigmatic, complicated woman, struggling in a marriage with a man she loves but isn't in love with. For me, she's a frustrated, complicated artist who's never been able to explore her real talents and depth, though she loves her children very much, and I do love the dynamic between her and her son. On the other side, you have the phenomenal Paul Dano. What a superb actor this man is. Another one of those actors that can literally just play any role given to him. Here he plays a man with a huge IQ, but maybe not the strongest EQ, as he tries his best now to fulfill his family's every needs and wants, and to give Mitzi everything that she could desire. But of course, he can't make her love him. He's an excellent father to his kids as well. And I do love the scenes with the whole family, as he now tries to be the best father he can be to young Sammy, trying to guide him through life in the best way possible. It's a touching and perfect performance here by Dano, who you can't help feel sympathetic for at times. I even particularly enjoyed Seth Rogen in this role. He brings his usual sort of comedic flair to the role as well. But here's Uncle Benny. He, of course, has this now phenomenal chemistry with Michelle Williams as Mitzi, and they cannot, of course, hide their love for much longer. Nice to see Rogen challenging himself as an actor. Now, what more can I say here about Gabriel LaBelle here as Sammy, the man playing Steven Spielberg himself? It's an excellent star-making performance here from Gabriel, who of course must have had huge pressure to fill these massive shoes of the man literally he was playing, directing the film. I feel he carries the role perfectly. He adds enough charm and humor to the role, but in the same breath is earnest and authentic, likable, and in search of how he can fulfill his dreams, whilst dealing with his complicated family and dealing with school bullies who are anti-Semitic. Albeit a long film, the film never really overstays its welcome. As you go on this journey with Spielberg, here as he revisits his complicated childhood in an honest, yet beautifully emotional way. It's a fantastic insight and portrayal, unclouded by nostalgia, of a man dealing with his family, dealing with the trials of being a teenager, all the while pursuing his absolute love of filmmaking. Beautifully written, fantastically acted, and just well-made movie all round. Steven Spielberg will always go down as one of the most recognizable and best directors ever, but this film is definitely one of those he can be truly proud of. Poignant, touching, and emotionally uplifting, The Fabelmans gets a 9 out of 10.